Thanks to books, we can broaden our horizons and travel from the comfort of our own homes. Of course, reading books is a great leisure activity, but there are many mystical and mysterious books that you should avoid at all costs for your own good. In this issue, we will continue to explore the most enigmatic books that you should avoid reading at all costs. It can be incredibly exciting to discover a long-lost piece of literature. As recently as 2019, a religious text known as the Smuggler's Psalter was recovered after nearly 300 years in the ocean. Despite residing on a ship that had long been sunk, it was found preserved inside a tin can, meaning miraculously it's still readable. Some lost books, however, should stay lost, like the Raskina. This unassuming tome was written by an Icelandic monk named Ganskog Nikolson, who supposedly filled it with evil magic, ultimately seeking to bend the devil to his will and rule the world. Yikes! Luckily, he didn't get his wish, and when he passed in 1520, the grisly grimoire was buried with him. A couple of hundred years later, however, a shady Icelandic mage called Lufter heard about the book and wanted to learn its dark secrets himself. So he traveled to its burial place, a cathedral school in Haller, where Ganskog had been bishop. Now it gets really wild. According to the legend, Lufter managed to summon the departed monk's spirit and demanded he hand over the Raskina. His mission was almost a success when a student standing in the belfry noticed the ghoulish scene. Wasting no time, he rang the church bells, dissipating the spirit. Lufter fled but was taken by the sea on his journey home and dragged to the underworld in retaliation for his arrogance. As for the book, some say it was burned after the fiasco, but others are convinced it's still out there, maybe just waiting to be fished up like the Smuggler's Psalter. Now, I think it's fair to say most of this is probably just a myth, but I'm not gonna go looking for the Raskina to find out. Lady Luck can be a fickle mistress, but she can also be downright evil. Enter the curse of the great Omar. The what? Well, in the early 1900s, London bookbinding company Sangorski and Sutcliffe decided to create a gorgeous version of a book by Edward Fitzgerald known as the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. The bookbinders were passionate about the project, working hard until 1911 when they finally finished the manuscript. At first, it seemed the work had paid off. It was the most detailed, lavish, expensive book they'd ever created. I'm talking covered in over 1,000 jewels lavish. In a final symbol of excess, the cover was adorned with 3 peacocks representing royalty and earning it the nickname the Great Omar. But whilst peacocks are a symbol of royalty, their feathers are associated with bad luck. Sure enough, despite its beauty, Sangorski and Sutcliffe found it maddeningly difficult to actually sell their creation. Eventually, the book was put up for auction and sold for £450, the equivalent of a whopping $76,500 today. Even so, this was less than half of what the bookbinders had hoped for. Anyway, the book was all set to be shipped off to its buyer in New York in a lovely new boat named the Titanic. Oh, yeah, the ship went down and the book sunk to the bottom of the sea where it remains to this day. Then, just a few weeks later, Sangorski drowned while at the beach with his family. Damn. Sutcliffe, however, committed to making a second copy, one just as lavish. This time, he stored it in a secure vault in London. But guess what? It was destroyed during the Blitz of World War II. Jeez. Unsurprisingly, by this point, people suspected the book was cursed. Yet, in spite of all this bad fortune, Sutcliffe's nephew took it upon himself to finish a third version that has thus far avoided disaster and now resides in the British Library. Let's hope it stays there. Alright, so we've seen some pretty freaky books so far, but at least we could understand those ones. Back in 1912, Polish bibliophile Wilfred Voynich discovered a book so mysterious that it still has people scratching their heads today. Now known as the Voynich Manuscript, Wilfred found it in a college just outside Rome and was immediately struck by its oddness. It's not surprising that the entire 240-page document is written in an unknown language that has proven utterly indecipherable to this day. There's no credited author, and what's more, seriously strange illustrations adorn many of the pages. I'm talking extinct or made-up plants, strange organic machinery, and women in their birthday suits bathing in the plants. Alright, the wacky book has been dated back to the 15th century, but that's pretty much all we know for sure. Many have tried to decipher it, but none have succeeded. Some even believe the manuscript contains some kind of forbidden knowledge, and that cracking the code will cast a fatal curse on the codebreaker. Ugh, cursed or not, there's no doubt the whole situation is weird. Could it be a simple hoax? Did aliens visit and leave it behind? Or is it something else? Let me know what you think in the comments below. When it comes to books you should avoid reading, I bet you didn't think I'd mention a home remedy book, right? Yet, The Longlost Friend, published in 1820, is just such a book, albeit with a few spells thrown in for good measure. You see, back in 1928, a Pennsylvanian witch convinced a local villager named John Blymer that he'd been cursed and told him the perpetrator was another local called Nelson Raymer. Apparently, he'd used a copy of The Long-Lost Friend to perform the curse. At first, Blymer had rejected the witch. Raymer was a well-liked healer who'd even patched Blymer up in the past. But Raymer had been going through a period of bad luck, and the witch was convincing. So eventually, he accepted her words and set out to break the curse. Blymer and two of his friends broke into Raymer's house, took his life, and attempted to burn the house down with the book inside it. Geez, only the house didn't actually burn down, leading some to blame the power of the magical text inside. This only fueled the rumors that Raymer had been up to no good, something I'm sure the witch was happy about. Whether she'd actually believed Raymer to be malevolent or not, we can't be sure, but I reckon she had a grudge on him for some reason. Regardless, his old house still stands today and is spookily known as Hex Hollow. Even spookier, the clocks inside are all stopped at a minute past midnight, the exact time Nelson closed his eyes for good. As such, many consider the place haunted. If the legends are true, that fishy copy of The Long-Lost Friend is still out there, maybe even in that same house. And no, I wouldn't try to find it. If you really want to read it, grab a copy with a less tainted history. As we've seen, messing around with old grimoires is generally a bad idea. If you believe the legends, possessions, hauntings, or even an early demise could await a reckless reader. The Voynich Manual of Demonic Magic, however, is a 15th century spell book that could be far more dangerous for men than women. Girl power, am I right? Most magical texts from the time feature a combination of angelic and demonic magic, but this one is purely about the dark side. So you might imagine it'd be equally dangerous for everybody, regardless of gender. The thing is, one of the most powerful spells it contains involves creating a mirror of Lilith, used for conjuring the demon of the same name. According to Judaic and Mesopotamian mythology, Lilith was the first wife of Adam and was cast out from the Garden of Eden for not obeying her husband. From there on, she became a demon. As such, she can be pretty spiky, especially towards men who summon her without proper reason. I like to think I'm a hit with the ladies, but even I might struggle this time. The original manuscript is written in Latin and tucked away in Munich's Bavarian State Library, but you can check out a translated edition online if you do decide to read this book. Well, that's all for today. What do you think of these books? Are they really as dangerous as they say they are? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.